The statues are silent, but they tell a story of innocent lives lost. Terrell Bosley, Blair Holt, and Hydea Pendleton among them. Dressed in the clothing of each of the victims, but faceless, the statues represent how quickly someone can be ripped from their life by gun violence.
It's just real hurtful to know that you do all the right things to raise your child, and then somebody, another teenager or somebody with a mental illness gets their hands on the gun and changes your life forever.
Let's not mince words nor bullets, all right? Gun violence in the United States has become an epidemic. It is projected that sometime in 2015, gun deaths will become more prevalent in the United States than auto fatalities. Our guest is a mathematician who loves stats. He's on a quest seeking sanity in the crazy world of politics, and his most recent work is focused on gun ownership and violence. He is the author of Stupidparty Math versus Myth, Unmasking the Destructive Forces Eroding American Democracy. Patrick Andendall is in the MidPoint house. Patrick, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you very much for having me.
Pleasure. What is it that made you specifically want to look at the gun deaths issue and start to put some numbers down here?
Well, I guess I'd already done some background research into Ferguson to try and understand what was happening. So I had that already in tune. Then when Baltimore happened, I decided to just start looking at the numbers. And what was odd was that there are no proper tracking of police homicides. In this country, the FBI try, but not all police precincts report. So it clearly hasn't been an important enough issue until now to figure out what is going on.
Now, there's a couple of things in here that I caught in your study, and you point out that violent crimes have halved over the last 20 years. But we are told here in America by a number of people that this reduction is because of the presence of more guns. Yet you found out that that is, in your words, a myth, correct?
Yes, that is a myth. There are plenty of reasons why violent crime has come down over the last 20 years. Especially in New York, deaths are down gun deaths are down by like 85%, I think, and nobody would argue that has anything to do with guns. Guns may have gone up, the number of guns that people own, but the amount of households that have guns has not gone up over this period of time. So to suggest that more guns has any impact on reducing crime is not correct. Plus, I would demonstrate that states that have more guns tend to have worse gun homicide statistics.
Now, we're looking at some stats right now on the screen that look at gun ownership around the world, and it shows 270 million civilian guns in the United States. The next closest country is Germany at 25 million. And the percentage of homicides, 67.5% to 26%. Now, when you look at these numbers, do you come to the realization here that it's because we have more guns, we have bad laws, we're a more violent society? I mean, what is it? There has to be a reason in there.
I don't think America's a more violent society, especially when you look at violent crimes per se. It's not particularly notable, but it does have the highest incarceration rates. I've lost the train of your question.
No, but the question is with regard to whether we are in America a more violent society or simply we just have guns available and people decide to use them. I mean, that seems to be the biggest question that everybody always asks.
Yeah, I think America has a sort of infantile gun culture. I'm not suggesting what the change should be, but gun culture is represented by the NRA, and I think the NRA is an insidious organization. And that until they reform themselves to be willing to reflect the views of their members, they really shouldn't be taken seriously, and politicians shouldn't be taking their money.
Well, you mentioned the NRA and you mentioned the numbers. Here's what you quoted in here, which I found fascinating. 77% of NRA members favor a waiting period for handgun purchase. 82% of Americans support limiting the sale of military-style assault weapons. 94% of police chiefs favor requiring a background check for all handgun sales. Where did you get these numbers? These are very revealing, and I guarantee you that as I spit them out, you're going to have NRA people saying, no, that can't be the case.
Well, those are the numbers. I mean, the links are provided on my piece. So if you visit the piece, you can automatically just click on the link and you'll find where the source comes from. But it all comes from standard sources.
So how are they getting away with this then, Patrick? If the NRA indeed is fostering this image forward, what do you think is the reason why that the numbers point out, and your math is excellent. It shows that the numbers say that Americans want to change. But you call them insidious. I guess that would have to lead to why you think they're able to get away with it.
Yes, I think that the whole gun debate is controlled by fanatics. The fanatics who lead the NRA. The NRA membership believes that they are working within a democratic organization, but that is just not true. The NRA is governed by a 9-person nominating committee. They're the people who get to decide who are on the board of directors of the NRA. The NRA has absolutely no interest at all in representing the views of their members.
Is the NRA, in your opinion, simply just pulling the wool over people's eyes and playing people for fools then?
Correct. They represent the view. They represent basically gun manufacturers.
So then, in all of the math that you did here, did you find, I got about 40 seconds left, did you find a bright spot here, something that would indicate that maybe there's a way out of this gun culture?
Possibly with the divisiveness of Obama being president, it might reduce racial tensions in the next election, and that might allow a more intelligent conversation. But everybody in America wants to talk about this issue, and there are fairly simple things that could be done.
And I got to point out that in the piece, a lot of what you point out here seem to be really simple things that can be done, which makes it fascinating enough to look at. I know we're going to be visiting again sometime on this, because this is something that I'm sure the NRA will hear this interview and they will be very unhappy, but we'd love to hear their answers as well. I want to remind everybody that the piece is Stupid Party Math versus Myth, Unmasking the Destructive Forces Eroding American Democracy. It is a fascinating book with a lot of discussion on both sides of the issue. Patrick Andendall, thank you so much for joining us, Patrick. We appreciate it.
You're welcome. Thank you very much for having me.
Stay with us. The only show that questions everything on all sides of the issue. This is MidPoint.